everybody, and thank you so much for joining us today. So I have been given the topic to talk to you about our secret sauce at Red and Yellow, to give you a bit of a view of under the hood into our vault, to give you an understanding of the secret ingredients that really make us who you are. So just to start off with, hi everybody, I'm Di. My name's Di Charton, and I'm one of the senior lecturers and head of programs here at Red and Yellow. I have over 20 years of experience within the industry, initially on the marketing side of things, and then moving across into advertising, and ultimately into very much specializing within the digital spaces. And I started my journey here at Red and Yellow back in 2007, a lifetime ago, where I actually came in and was giving guest lectures as one of the industry experts coming in and sharing knowledge with the Red and Yellow students. And it was through this time that I actually realized that this was my passion, that spending time with the young people of tomorrow, the future game changers, mentoring and helping them grow was really something that drove me and led me to where I am right now. And so I guess this is something, this topic, this secret sauce, this thing that makes us quintessentially Red and Yellow, something I'm very passionate about, because it's something I feel like it's a journey I've been on for quite a while with this incredible, incredible brand. So let's take a look at some of these people who really have built their entire brand. Everything around them is around this whole secret, kind of Colonel Sanders and his 11 herbs and spices, the secret thing that makes KFC what it is. Coca-Cola literally has a huge vault that they keep their recipe in, because they never ever want to be perfectly replicated. Many people will try, but nobody ever quite gets that taste of Coca-Cola quite right. It's not quite the same. And then anybody who's done any work in Google will realize that Google algorithm and how it actually works and how you really get to understand search engine optimization and get to the top is also, it's a secret. They keep on changing. You never quite know what they're going to do. But Red and Yellow, it actually isn't a secret. We've been very vocal, we've been very open from the beginning about what's important to us, what do we do, how do we do things. And it was there when we were formed in 1994. That's how long we've been going. And it still sits within our core nowadays. So I'm going to take you on a journey back. So I'm going to take you back to bring you to where we are now. So back in 1976, and I know this is forever and ever ago for most of you here, but back in 1976, Bob Brightford, Brian Saltrip, and Roger Macon started an agency that was called Brightford, Saltrip and Macon. When they came onto the scene, they completely disrupted the South African advertising industry. So they were part of a group of creatives that really came and put South Africa on the map. They were, in 1984, they became what is now known as Ogilvy South Africa. They acquired the VW account, and it's a relationship that has really stood the test of time. And what they did was they managed to punch above their weight, because they consistently spoke about this notion that advertising needs to work. It needs to be creative, but it needs to solve a business challenge. And it needs to have this combination of this creative magic and strategic and commercial logic. So it was the thing that really fueled them, and it would made them the incredible powerhouse team and built up this. It was the foundings of what we know as Ogilvy South Africa. But Brian and Alan were two creatives who started to get incredibly frustrated. They'd built up their career, they'd nurtured a lot of young talent coming through, and eventually got very frustrated with the level of graduate that was coming into the agency. They really felt that they had to spend so much time before anybody could really add any value, that they were not coming out equipped with the skills they needed. So they had just disrupted an entire ad industry, so they said, well, let's do the same thing on the education side. And they got the support of Ogilvy, they got the support of some of the founding partners, And with Bob Brightford, they went and they started Red and Yellow back in 1994. And it really started as a creative solution. So initially when they started out, it was with graphic designers, art directors, and copywriters. It was producing the people to go into the industry that they had worked with in the past, and they'd seen that there was this absolute gap in their knowledge of what they needed to do to be effective and what they actually came in knowing to do. So they took everything that they had learned from their many years in the industry and applied it within the space in which they had set up this whole environment. And they looked at things completely differently. They took that whole, let's be our creative thinkers and let's just put that hat on and just apply it within a different space to prepare people for the world of work, and not just to have a piece of paper in their hand, but to actually start to add value. And it's this thinking that has been consistent throughout, from the get-go, from that first day we opened in 1994 to where we are now and where we will be moving forward. So there was a quote that Bob said right in the beginning, and it was as relevant then as it has been through all of our years and is now. And he said, our students have the most up-to-date bag of skills when they graduate. And pretty much what he was talking about there is understanding, when we talk about a bag of skills and we talk about being up-to-date, it requires having an understanding of the industry that you're servicing, of where you're placing people and what people actually need. These are some of the elements that consistently change and have tweaked and have grown as we've gone along, and I'll take you through a bit of that growth, but it's what is part of our promise. It's part of that secret sauce that is consistent throughout. So we started off with the red and yellow splats that a lot of people who were here at the beginning are very attached to. This whole red and yellow, and where it comes from is that it came out of Ogilvy and needed the extra splash of color. But the one represents the logic and the other one the magic. And as you know, that's where we came into being called the Red and Yellow School of Logic and Magic, because it's at that space, it's on the bridge between the two that great ideas and great solutions exist. And you need to understand both. You need to understand what is happening on the business side of things. You have to understand the strategy. You have to understand the underlying problems that you're looking to solve, and then looking to take that creative magic to find those uniquely human insights, to find those trigger points that can get people to buy into and feel and see things the way that you do and in a different way, so that you can bridge the two together. And that's where great ideas live. And that's where we became the Red and Yellow School of Logic and Magic. We started off with 2 basic diplomas and then added another one in marketing, advertising, and communication, which is now known as MAC. But as we've grown and as the industry's grown, our need to service that industry has changed at the same time. So our next iteration saw us in 2012 being acquired by Rob Stokes and some of his kind of people that he worked with, who was an absolute digital maverick within the industry and was one of the really key founders of one of the top agencies, the digital agencies within kind of the South African space. And that iteration took us into the digital era. It gave us an opportunity to expand our offering, to start to go, we look at full-time students, but what about people who are looking for professional development, who need more, who need to consistently upskill themselves, because that's what you need to do within this industry to stay relevant. You have to continuously learn. Until where we've now iterated even further, because now the industry is also asking us, going, we need that stronger business focus. So we are now the Red and Yellow Creative School of Business, because we do seriously believe that it's creative thinking is the most important skill for this 21st century. Creative thinking, solving critical analysis, design thinking, applying all of those uniquely human elements are what's going to make us different. Last year we got acquired by Honoris, which now makes us part of an incredible network of other higher education institutions across Africa. And even though we've evolved all of these steps along the way, we still have that thing that's absolutely at our core, that we develop creative thinkers. That no matter what they do, no matter what, if they do a short course with us, if they come and do a 3-year BA or a 3-year BCom, or they do one of our advanced diplomas, it's about unlocking that creative thinking, finding those things that can make them uniquely good at the skills that they have, because every single one of us is different. We're not trying to create a cookie cutter. Cookie cutter doesn't solve problems. Cookie cutter doesn't get you to a different place to where you are now. It's about going, how do you develop creative thinkers that change the industries they're in, that change the businesses that they're in, and have an impact? And ultimately, it's about this. What Brian and Alan and Bob set out to do were to create industry-ready graduates, so that your time you leave, you've got skills that you can apply, you've got value that you can actually add, and it's something that we've consistently done and continue to do. One of the things for us that is so, so important, and we talk about this a lot, it's not just about this piece of paper in your hand, because you consistently have to think about what happens beyond. What happens when you leave? When you've finished your time, when you've invested all of this time and this energy into whatever it is you're doing, but into your studies, into your growth, it's for what purpose? And it's through taking that mindset of going, it's about where I can get to afterwards, and it's applying my thinking in a way that really starts to separate and put people apart. And we've created absolute industry giants who've been incredibly successfully, both locally as well as internationally. And it's all actually about understanding that it's not about getting a piece of paper. It's not about doing a box ticking exercise. It's about going, how do I flex my creative muscle, my thinking? How do I push myself that ultimately I'm successful beyond? So a lot of what we need to do, when we talk about that secret sauce, a lot of what we have to do consistently is understand what is it that the industry actually needs. So we tap into industry experts who come in and share their knowledge with us, as kind of say the education and planning team, through our academic boards, through our advisory panels, all of these amazing things, formal sessions that we have set up that allow these external industry experts to feed in. But it's more than just that. We bring the industry in to the learning experience and into the learning environment. So through the course of the year, students are exposed to incredible range of industry experts and different people with very different stories. And they'll come and they'll share how they got to success, what they've learned, where they feel that they've failed, their area of expertise, sharing that with students. Because it's one thing hearing it from me, it's a very different thing hearing it from somebody who's walking and living that reality every single day. So it's bringing the industry in that consistently creates those connections. It also creates the opportunities to develop mentorships, to reach out, to secure future job potentials, and to really expand your horizon, because that's what we're doing. We're consistently going, how do you get ready? How do you think beyond? And it's not only just bringing people in, it's about sending our students out and getting our students to connect with the broader industry that happens outside of Red and Yellow. So one of the big ways of doing this is through actually working on what we call live client briefs and real world problems. Because it's one thing for me to sit here and tell you that this is what I think African Bank's problem is. And for you guys to give me back a solution and for me to say, well, okay, I think that's going to work. But it's very, very different when African Bank come in here and tell you, this is the problem, this is where we're having, this is what the data is telling us, this is what we want. And for the students to actually have to interpret that, to understand that, and to question it. And one of the things that we always talk about is the fact that what a client wants, or what people want, is not always what they need. So you have to learn how to question, is this actually what they need? Is their ask going to actually solve their problem? And how do we do that for them? How do we get to that place where we can provide value to them? And it's through, we start doing those type of projects, we do that work here, so by the time you get into the industry, by the time, no matter what you do, whether you go and you run your own business, whether you join a small team, a big team, whether it's advertising, whether it's design, whether it's marketing, whatever it is, you've gotten into that mindset of how do I identify a problem, how do I identify a need, and how do I provide a solution? And I do it within using all of these various tools that I've been given access to. It's also learning that not every brief comes in perfect A4, Lato, 14 space with the aims and the objectives really beautifully written out for you, which is what often happens within an educational institution. Somebody's going to give you a brief and it's going to be a one-liner. Somebody's going to be phoning you and telling you what they need. Somebody will give you an incredible amount of data and information. And it's learning to work with different types of people and understand their different types of needs. And it's in that way that you really get an incredible deep learning experience. Another thing that we also do is we call work placement learning. A lot of people call this internships, where we ensure that no matter which program that you're on, when you study with us full time, we facilitate learning actually within the industry. So when I talk about consistency, I talk about this industry, it is so broad and it's so vast. And part of the journey of spending time with us is to figure out where you fit in within this whole space. Because every single one of you has got strengths, and every single one of you have got what I like to call allowable weaknesses, because you've always got a flip side of a coin. But every single one of you have got things that you're passionate about, and ultimately it's about trying to help you find something that I love to call ikigai. So it's a Japanese term. So ikigai is where you marry your passion, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and what you can make money from. Because if one of those is missing, you're not going to get that true success that you're looking for. And part of what we try and do is help steer you within that direction, help you unlock that thing that you're passionate about and you're good at, and ultimately that there's commercial value for doing that. And part of that exercise is getting out there, experiencing this different world to figure out for yourself, is this the right type of environment for me? We've got an incredible amount of building blocks, and don't worry, you're not meant to be able to read that, because that's just a snippet of some of the courses that we offer. These are the elements that help us develop and shape and grow and get that knowledge across to you that you're going to need. Because ultimately what we need to do is we need to make sure that you've got that theoretical base, you've got that theoretical knowledge, but then on top of that you've got the ability to practically apply anything that you get taught. Because if you don't have the two together, then you're not going to be able to actually be successful out there. There's no point in being able to tell me the 10 points of how to set up a social media strategy if when I ask you to do one, you actually can't even do it. Or you can tell me what a beautiful logo should look like, but then not actually be able to design it. It's all about being able to actually take that knowledge and then translate it into something, and translate it into something that is valuable to other people, because ultimately that's then how you get successful. Then another thing for me, and this is my absolute passion project, is our strong focus on what we call critical skills. So a lot of people term them soft skills, but we are absolutely adamant at Red and Yellow that these are the critical skills for future thinkers. So I've already spoken about creative thinking, approaching problems in a new way, becoming problem solvers. But it is also about how to work with other people. It's through working with other people that you really, really get to that point of 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2 anymore. It suddenly amplifies. It just compounds from there, and you become so much more effective when you know how to be able to work with other people. And a lot of your time spent at Red and Yellow is doing that, is ensuring that you work across different teams, you work with people who are very different to you, who have completely different mindsets, a completely different view, a completely different skill set. And when you learn how to bring them together, that's when you learn how to create great solutions. When you learn how to deal with conflict, not be scared of conflict, you learn how to understand yourself, how you communicate, understand other people, understand how to communicate with them, That's why we call them critical skills, because we feel that it's one of the most important things that we give you that allow you to go into the industry and actually be able to work and not be terrified of this environment because you've never had to do this type of collaboration before. So it's a massive, massive part and a massive focus of what we do. And then, for me, the thing that we are the most proud of is we get to know our students incredibly, incredibly well. Nobody here is a number. Everybody here is an individual who we know your strengths, we know your weaknesses, we know where we think you can go and where you are best suited to fly. It comes down to the time and attention that we'll spend with you. So it's all about having one-on-one time with lecturers who are passionate about what they do and have a deep knowledge of their particular subject matter. It's about making sure that you get to collaborate with them and understand and work with them in a way that absolutely amplifies your ability. So there's personal connection, the one-on-one interaction with our lecturing staff and our education staff is something that is so important to us. I just had to put this up. It's just something that Faith, one of our grads last year, put up on her WhatsApp story, and she just said, a short story, the marketing skills I've learned at Red & Yellow in 2020 are unmeasurable. I've never been so ready for business like I am today. I'm grateful. And this, guys, is why we do what we do. Because our secret sauce is that when you succeed, we succeed. When you do well beyond, not when you do well here, when you do well beyond, we go, yay, that's amazing. That's another little bird that's gone off to fly and really spread their wings and found their passion and found what they're good at. And that's actually what drives us. This sign has been up since day dot. You see it when you come onto campus. I am a sponge. And what this means is that it's about going, if you commit to being curious, you commit to having that open mind, you commit to doing things because you see the value of the future of it, not because it's for a project and not because it's for a mark, not for a piece of paper. Being a sponge is about going, I absorb everything given to me. I take every opportunity given to me. I use it. I take it on and I realize that I need to be that for life. It's not just for while I'm here. It's not just while I'm listening to one particular person. It becomes something that fuels you. When you realize that an ego gets in the way, when you think you know it all, then you know what? You probably need to leave the industry because you have to continuously grow. And if you take on this mindset, the reason why we have it up here is because if you start off with this mindset, you start off with going, I commit to being that sponge, and then I commit to being that sponge every day for myself moving forward. That's when you become successful in the industry, and that's ultimately what we want for every single one of you. So that's me. Thank you so much for joining me today.